The history of Islam, the history of Muslim civilization is extremely fascinating. And while it is true that our religion is divine and our history is human, and since it is human, it is fallible, it's not perfect, still, the history of Islam and the history of Muslim civilizations and the accomplishments wherever Muslims have gone is something to be truly proud of and to be cherished. And our youth and our next generation need to be exposed to the beauty, the grandioseness, the majesty of our civilization. And especially the history of the Muslims in India. It is especially fascinating and unique. And it provides many examples that should be of benefit to all people. Sadly, that history, that legacy is being tarnished and completely misrepresented in slanderous mechanisms for very political and nefarious aims. The current regime of that land, the BJP ruling party, that follows a twisted and nationalistic strand of Hinduism. This strand is called Hindutva. This strand is claiming that the land of India should only be defined in ethnic and cultural and religious terms. And they say that this land of India, it is only meant for Hindus. And so those that are outside of this faith tradition, even if they have roots going back thousands of years, all people outside of that ethnic and religious group, whether they're Parsis, whether they're Christians, and especially if they are Muslim, according to Hindutva, they become enemies of the state. They become people that are threats. They become people that are not welcome in that land. And we have seen in the last 10 years, this ideology has undertaken legislation in order to persecute the minorities. They have taken legislation in order to even strip citizenship away or to acquire the waqf properties that belong to the Muslims. And now, unfortunately, we are seeing a very precarious situation. The closest that this country has been at war to its neighbor, the closest it has been at war for the last 5 decades, based upon this misunderstanding, based upon this perversion known as Hindutva. And people of sense and sensibility, people of dignity, people of common sense do not want war. Nobody wants war. War is something that will harm innocent people. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians might potentially die. And so it is our duty, it is our job to do whatever we can to avert war and to bring about peace. This is what our religion is about. And so what can I do? What can you do from so far away? One of the things we can do is to dismantle intellectually, to dismantle ideologically this perversion known as the Hindutva. This is a misunderstanding. It is historically false. And today in our brief khutbah, I'm going to mention some of the points that we should be aware of. And the goal, as always, is not to give a comprehensive summary. What can 25 minutes accomplish? The goal is to incentivize you, to make you more curious so that you go study and read and listen to lectures. And then every one of you can now engage with the broader public. Every one of you can become a vehicle of information so that we can attempt to tame, to curb the rise of animosity and hatred, and especially the rise of anti-Muslim and Islamophobic sentiments. Much can be said. I will divide my khutbah into 2 basic parts. The first of them, some essential facts about the history of Islam and Muslims in India. And the second part of the khutbah will be some essential facts about Hindutva. 2 different topics need to be combined in one. Number 1, essential facts of Islam in India. And number 2, essential facts about the rise of Hindutva. With this knowledge, we can attempt to begin clarification. We can attempt to make the broader public calm down and not engage in war. Some facts about Muslims and Islam in India. We should know that Islam entered the Indian subcontinent just a few decades after the death of the Prophet ﷺ in the land that is now known as India. But realize back then, this region was not considered one cohesive whole. This region actually had over 24 dynasties. And each dynasty viewed itself as being semi-independent. One of these dynasties was situated in the province of Sindh, and it was ruled by a king called Raja Dahar. And this dynasty started attacking Muslim fleets, Muslim ships, and eventually held hostage children and women and abused those women. So when this dynasty supported the pirates that did this, it was at this point in time that the Umayyad Khilafah through Hajjaj ibn Yusuf got involved and demanded the release of the hostages, demanded the release of the women. Women were being abused in this dynasty, and Hajjaj ibn Yusuf said, if you do not release these women, these are our women, Muslim women, these children are our children, if you do not release them, then we will have no choice but to send an army and a navy against you. And this king rebelled and said, no, I'm not going to do anything. And so because of this, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf sent Muhammad ibn Qasim. Muhammad ibn Qasim invaded not all of India. He didn't invade India. Muhammad ibn Qasim landed on the shores of Sindh with the primary goal of freeing the hostages, freeing the children, and establishing freedom for those prisoners that were there. There was no unified India to invade. The notion of invading an entire country or region was not there. He came to free those hostages and slaves. And with the freeing, he then established a small principality in what is modern day Sindh. And a number of cities were founded. Cities such as Al-Mansura and Al-Mahfuza and Multan and other cities like Debal, even though they existed before, with the Muslims and Arabs coming, they took on added significance. We're talking about 750 CE to around 1050 CE, more than 1,200 years ago. There are a number of travelers that went through India and saw these cities. A number of eyewitness accounts, geographers and people of knowledge like Al-Mas'udi, like Ibn Hawqal, like others who are well-known travelers. And Al-Mas'udi is an eyewitness. He traveled throughout the Muslim world. He traveled to Baghdad, to Damascus, to Egypt, and he traveled to India as well. Ibn Hawqal as well is one of those travelers. He traveled to the city of Mansura. The both of them wrote eyewitness accounts. And the both of them, in spite of the fact that they're global travelers and they've seen so much, the both of them express their awe and admiration about these Muslim cities in the land of Sindh. They express how magnificent these cities are. They're talking about how the fortresses are protecting the inhabitants. Ibn Hawqal mentions that there are gardens that people can walk in. He mentions the city is constructed in squares. People can walk properly and live properly. And they mention that the whole city has a bureaucracy that is taking care of the people around it. I want you to understand, when they're writing these lines, they're writing as people who recognize what the world is, and they're saying what the Muslims are doing in India is truly phenomenal. Additionally, at this time frame, probably 90% of this region is Hindu. The people in charge primarily are of the Muslims. Why are these Hindus not rebelling against the Muslim lords? Why are they not rebelling against these Muslim rulers? This is a question that we have to ask ourselves, and the answer is obvious. The answer is that Muslims that were ruling in this region, they were not exploiting the local people. They were not exploiting them and taking advantage of them. On the contrary, this is a key important fact. When the Muslims came, because they're connected to global civilization, because they're connected to the trade routes around the world, because they're connected to the ummah, they are bringing knowledge and bureaucracy and efficiency that was not known to the locals of the region. They're bringing irrigation techniques. They're bringing commerce and industry. They're connecting in the international highway these cities that had not been connected on the international highways. Ibn Hawqal explicitly mentions that from the door of Mansura began the road that would take you eventually through Baghdad. They're building roads that are connecting these cities to the global civilization. civilizations. What this shows is that when the Muslims came, you cannot consider the Muslims to be colonizers like the British were. That is something that is the Hindutva lie. When the Muslims came, they helped the land flourish, and they took ownership, and they contributed, and they shaped, and they took on an Indian identity as well. When the Muslims came, they did not rule as a ruling class. They did not rule like the British did. This is the fundamental difference. When the Muslim dynasties came, beginning with Muhammad ibn Qasim, and then yes, many other dynasties came as well. You had the Ghaznavids, you had the Delhi Sultanates, a number of dynasties, the Lodhis and whatnot. You had the Mughals. In every instance, without exception, they did not form an elite class, a superior class like the British did. They did not speak in their own languages, not learning the languages of the people. No, wherever the Muslims went, they became a part of the people, and they contributed to the people's lives, and in turn they also took on some of the cultures and the habits of the locals as well. Ibn Hawqal mentions that the sultan of the city, the mayor of the city, would dress in the garb of the Indians. He was amazed at this because he hadn't seen a Muslim dressed like this. Ibn Hawqal mentions that he would be dressed and decorated in a version of a shalwar kameez, if you like, and he hadn't seen somebody like this before. So the rulers of the time were not like the British, disconnected. No, they were a part of the people, and they helped shape civilization. In fact, throughout pre-modernity, before the coming of the colonizers, listen to this statistic. Even though Islam in India was never a majority, at max it was 25%. It is estimated under Aurangzeb, and the Hindutva do not like Aurangzeb at all. It is estimated under Aurangzeb, 25% of that region was Muslim. 70 or 80% was 70% was Hindu. The question arises, why didn't the 70% revolt against the 20%? Why was there never, in all pre-modernity, not once, a Hindu revolt against a Muslim sultanate? Yes, there were wars between competing civilizations, as is the case everywhere. Even Muslim countries go to war. Those wars were not based on religion, they were based on resources, they were based on land, they were based on borders. In the entire pre-modern history, never did Muslims and Hindus have a civil war until the British come. Why? Because wherever the Muslims went, they actually caused the civilization to flourish. In fact, truthfully said, and wallahi this is not a brag or a boast, it was Muslim rule that allowed pre-colonial India to get on the map. Why was Europe so incensed to go to India? Why was Europe so crazy to get into India? Who was India being ruled by at that time? By the Mughals, by the Nawabs, by the Muslim rulers. It was the Muslim rulers that had connected India to the global roadmap, straight to Baghdad, straight to Iran, straight to Central Asia, straight to Muslim Africa. The products of India would be spread, and GDP increased and raised, so much so it got the attention of the British, of the Portuguese, of the Dutch. Why? Because efficiency of the Muslim lands. Never forget, when the colonizers, the European colonizers came, who did they deal with? The Muslims, rulers there, the Mughals, the Nawab of Bengal. They're dealing with the local Muslims. So for the Hindutva to come and to then equate us with the colonizers, to equate us with the Europeans, it is a travesty of history. It is an injustice against truth itself. Islam helped shape India. In fact, another bitter reality, the India of today would not be recognizable without Islam. The Hindutva want to claim India as their own. What they perceive as India, it is a merging and a product of multiple civilizations. I'm not saying only Islam, but without Islam, the India of today that the Hindutvas cherish would not be recognizable to them. And every single aspect, Islam shaped what is the modern Indian culture without exception. In every facet of existence, over 1,300 years of interaction has shaped Indian identity and culture. The language of India, Urdu and Hindi, it is shaped by the language of Arabic and Farsi. The architecture of India, completely coming from the immersion of Central Asian and Persian and Afghan and Arab motifs. The arts of India, the mosaics of India, the iconic structures of India, the cuisine of India, everything has been helped to be shaped by the Muslims. All of this false sense of notion of the Hindutva that Muslims are invaders, the fact of the matter is, the very country that they cherish, they would not recognize it had it not been for 1,200 years of active contribution. The most iconic places in India have been built by the Muslims, the Taj Mahal and others. The language that they use for Hindutva, it is shaped by the Muslims. The irony of ironies is lost upon them, but this is where our education has to be given and try our best to correct this misunderstanding of history. You cannot equate European colonizers who came, didn't learn any words at all, they lived in an elite class, they kept their language, they forced their language on the peoples. In contrast, the Muslims of India never forced the people to convert. Think about it. Why is it after 1,200 years, the majority of that region is still Hindu? Why? There was no forced conversion. There was no repression. The Muslims of the land live and let live. Live and let live. The tolerance that they allowed for was appreciated by all peoples, and that is why the Hindus under Muslim rule never revolted, because they appreciated the freedoms that Islam gave. They appreciated the bureaucracy and the efficiency that Muslim dynasties gave that was better than anything that they had. You cannot compare this to the European colonizers, because the Europeans when they came, the British when they came, they literally looted the entire country. As I joke, even the word loot, they looted, because loot is a Hindi word. They looted the word loot and they brought it into the English language. When the British came to India, India was the second or the third largest GDP in the whole world. By the time the British left, it was the 27th on the list. It was Muslims who helped India get to the second, third largest GDP. It was Islamic dynasties that boosted the prestige of India. Where is the capital of the country? Delhi. Why is Delhi the capital? The Delhi Sultanate. The Delhi Sultanate was literally what put Delhi on the map. And here, the very people that are talking about Hindutva, they're talking about it from the very city and the very land and the very language in which the Muslims contributed. The irony of ironies is lost upon them, but we need to educate them about this reality. Now, I am not saying that Muslims in India and the Muslim dynasties never did any wrong. Every dynasty, every politician, there's always some negatives. But I will say, and I say this unabashedly, that what Islam gave to India, what the Muslim dynasties gave, no other dynasties gave. And the izzah and the glory that the Muslim dynasties gave is what allowed that region to become what it is. I'm not saying there were never any issues. This is the reality. All politicians, all dynasties have some negatives. But overall, the sum total, you cannot compare. And that is why India reached its heyday, the glory days under Mughal rule, as everybody knows. Now, this leads me to my second part of the khutbah, and that is Hindutva. And what will make you understand what is Hindutva? As we said, Hindutva is a perversion of Hinduism. Hindutva is a merging of three things. Number one, superiority of race, blood. Our blood is better than other people's. They believe we have a pure blood, they have a pure blood. Number two, a perverted sense of religion. Their version of Hinduism is very militant. Number three, that sense of nation and religion combined with geography, India. This three combination is what makes Hindutva unique. The claim that this region is exclusively meant for one ethnicity, one blood, and that anybody who opposes them does not belong in this land. The irony is that Hindutva, and I say this academically, this is not some childish statement, the slogans, this is truth, and you can read dissertations and monographs, and if you want, I can give you references after the khutbah. Academics of our time, historians, they mention Hindutva, this notion, is not coming from Hinduism. It is actually coming straight from the policies and the tactics of the British. The ideology of Hindutva has more to do with British colonization than it has to do with the Gitas and the Bhagavad Gita and all of the classical myths of Hinduism and the founding of that religion. The notion of a group of people belonging to a certain land and having a certain superiority, all of these are coming straight out of the British tactics in India. And it was the British who began to introduce so many concepts that led to Hindutva. Firstly, it was the British who began classifying people based upon their ethnicity and religion. No Muslim ruler, no Mughal emperor went around house to house saying, what is your religion? What is your blood? What is your ethnicity? Nobody did this. You're a part of one land. Let's live together. You worship in the temple. You worship in the masjid. We agree to disagree. We don't have to hate one another. That was how the Mughals ruled. When the British come, they start asking, what is your blood? What is your caste? Where do you come from? What is your ancestry? What religion are you? And they start categorizing people based upon blood, based upon skin color, based upon caste. No Muslim ever did this. We treat everybody equally. The Muslims considered the Hindus to be a type of Ahl Kitab. The Muslims considered the Hindus to be a people that can worship as they please, and they have their religion, we have our religion. Lakum dinukum waliya din. This was the default of 1,200 years. But when the British come, they are interested in categorizing. They're interested in dividing. They're interested in causing hatred between all of these different groups. And so, as a part of that tactic, the British historians started propagating a false historical narrative. This is something well documented. People like Sir William James, people like Sir Thomas and others, they began claiming, Sir William Jones, they began claiming that, oh, you guys were one united people, and then the Arabs, the Mohammedans invaded you. This notion that the Hindutva is saying, it doesn't come from their own historians. It comes from British historians of the 17th century. The British wanted to divide and conquer. The British wanted to foment hatred. So the British said to the local Hindu people, your nation was a great nation, and those Arabs came and invaded you. All of this is coming in order for the notion of dividing and conquer. British historians of the time started categorizing ancient India into Vedic and non-Vedic, Aryan and Dravidian, and all of these terminologies and discussions that are now considered outdated. These are very, very simplistic, and they are not true, but the British began propagating them so that, what was the goal? Divide the people, start creating hatred amongst them. And then the British came in and started importing ideas of nationality, ideas of nation states, ideas of one groups of people should have independence. By the way, if you've been listening to my talks, they did the same thing with our Arab brothers in the Arab and Hijaz against the Ottomans. The same thing. You guys are not like them. You guys are different. You guys are Arabs. You need your own country, your own kingdom. Divide and conquer, preaching a concept. The Arabs at the time, yes, they knew the Turks are the Turks, but they never viewed them as the other. They never viewed them as the enemy, their fellow Muslims. The British come along and they say, no, you're not the same. They're different peoples. You have your own, they have their own. And it worked there as it is working right now over here as well. Divide and conquer. So they began preaching this concept of nationality, of identity to the Hindus. You have your own identity distinct from that of the Muslims. And here's the irony. Hindutva says, India belongs to the Hindus. I want you to pay attention to this. It was the British who first time in all of human history demarcated what is now modern India. India itself, as we consider it the subcontinent, consists of over 700 distinct identities. Over 400 languages are spoken. Over 25 clear divisions within what we consider Hinduism. The people who lived there never viewed themselves as being one peoples. Never. Because their languages are different, their cultures are different, and every person from that region, you know, South India versus North India, simple division we're all aware of. It's much more than this. Over 200 ethnic identities. Who lumped them all together and said India? The British. Not only this, even more ironic. Where did the term Hinduism come from? Because experts should know, actually Hinduism, as we consider it, is not one religion. Hinduism is a group of over 15 strands, different gods, different ideologies, different ways of living, completely different philosophies. No two are exactly the same. Who combined all of these and said, you guys should be called Hindus? Once again, the British in 1700, they were the ones who put all of these different identities and they said, you are one religion called Hinduism. Now, once you understand the term India is coming from the British, meaning when I say the term India, I mean the geographic land known as India. And the term Hinduism is coming from the British. Now, do you understand the irony when a Hindutva person says, India belongs only to the Hindus? The very nation state he's calling for was created by the British. And the very group that he thinks it belongs to, that group was quite literally demarcated, delineated by the British. This notion simply does not exist in the Hindu scriptures called the Vedas. There's no such notion. And if you want further proof for this, all you need to do is to examine this ideology in other places in the world. This is the reality of modern fascism. The founders of the BJP, the RSS, and Hitler's Nazi party were in direct communication with each other because the ideology is the same. Perversion of religion, superiority of ethnicity, and the land and nation state come together. That is what Nazism is. And Zionism is yet another example of this reality. Perversion of religion, superiority of ethnicity, and land state. And the far right of this country, here in our own mosque, somebody came to our parking lot and she's running for Congress and she said, America belongs only to Christians. We need to kick the Muslims out. This is what she's saying right from here. Where is this notion coming from? A land, an ideology, an ethnicity. All of this comes from European notions of nation state, of ethnicity, of identity. Not from India, not from Hindus and Muslims, not from the people of the region. So when you understand that this reality has much more to do with the nation state as proposed by Europe, with ideologies coming from colonization, you then realize the entire Hindutva ideology. It is not coming from the ancient teachings of the Vedas. It is coming straight out of what the British did in order to divide and conquer, and even the British could never have predicted the Frankenstein that they themselves created. O Muslims, it is our job to be as accurate as we can. It is our job to try to spread peace as much as we can. Nobody wants to see war. And if we allow this Hindutva to continue, then only Allah Azza wa Jalla knows what will happen. We must try our best to placate, to speak sensibility to those that have dignity and respect. We must try our best to make sure these countries, they are our kith and kin. Our blood is there. We must try our best to make sure we avert war. And the way we do this is via education, via dua, via preaching and teaching, and via educating people about the reality of this perversion known as Hindutva. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed is the one who knows best, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect the Muslims of that region. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless me and you with through the Quran, and may He make us of those who His verses they understand and applies halal and haram throughout our lifespan. Ask Allah's forgiveness. You as well ask Him, for He is the Ghafoor and the Rahman. Alhamdulillah al-Wahid al-Ahad al-Samad alladhi lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad wa ba'du. One very important fact needs to be mentioned as well. And this is especially pertinent to our brothers and sisters who are not from that region. Some of you might not fully understand, say, oh, this is a regional issue. What if I were to tell you that Hindutva and Zionism have formed alliances that are affecting me and you right here as we speak? This is not something only related to the region. No, this strand of Hinduism is directly and causally linked politically, militarily, ethnically, culturally to Zionism. In fact, India with the BJP is one of the largest consumers of Israeli products. They have political alliances. They have contracts with each other. Both the BJP and the Zionists, they share data about online activists, about Muslims that they don't like. Both the BJP and the Zionism, they share military tactics about interrogation, about tactics about how to deal with Muslims. Both Zionism and the BJP, they spend money in all countries, and especially in our country of America. They get involved in our local politics. The BJP and the Zionist lobby are the two most powerful foreign lobbies that are getting involved in our own elections. No person runs at the Congress level, at the state level, at the Senate level, except that both of these entities get involved, and they generally collaborate. They generally collaborate and they fund the same candidate. Understand, and the last few months has demonstrated this. The BJP activists online, the Hindutva social media activists have been at the forefront of fomenting anti-Palestinian hatred. People in India are at the forefront in spreading lies about what is happening in Gaza. In the last year, 5 of the most powerful and evil voices of Islamophobia that we assumed were based in Europe, we assume were based in America, 5 in the very least that I'm aware of have been exposed as being BJP inside jobs from India. People with profiles of white from Geneva, Switzerland, from this, from that. Turns out there are a bunch of Indians coming together as a team based in Delhi and Mumbai, and they're pretending to be people based in Europe, and they're fomenting anti-Muslim hatred. Oh Muslims, understand this point. The Hindutva lobby is now the 3rd or the 4th most powerful lobby in America. Of course, number 1 is always AIPAC in Israel. Number 1, the Zionist lobby is the most powerful. Under them, 3rd or 4th, is now the Hindutva lobby. And the two of them have joined together against whom? Palestine, Muslims, Islam. This is not a coincidence, because they understand one of the most important tactics is to cause the average American to be fearful of people like us. If you can make the average American scared of Muslims, Islam, Arab, Palestinian, and you want to equate Islam with terrorism, then the BJP and the Hindutva and the Zionists, they say American foreign policy will favor Israel and the BJP. And we've seen this for the last few years, that is what is happening. Now let me tell you a fact. Everybody pay attention. Our masjid is being targeted, as you all aware, specifically by name. Our janazah facilities have been shut down for the last month and a half because our own governor got involved. We've had deaths in our community, people who pray here. We could not do janazahs for their loved ones because of this hatred. Our project is at risk because of all of this. The main person who is behind all of this is coming out of New Jersey from a Zionist background, has nothing to do with America, has nothing to do with Texas. Somebody in New Jersey, listen to this now, I'm saying this for the first time, who is being funded not just by the Israeli lobby, but by the Hindutva lobby as well. I want you to understand, our masjid is being directly targeted by the Hindutva lobby. Our facilities cannot operate because the Hindutva lobby, along with the Zionist lobby, has bots in India, social media accounts in India, fake people in India that are creating an online controversy, creating a firestorm. It is affecting us right here and now. So do not think that, oh, that's nothing to do with us. Firstly, we're one ummah. What affects them affects us. Secondly, I have literally connected the dots to the point of it affecting you right here and now. We cannot have janazas in our own facility because money is being paid by the BJP, by the Hindutva, in order to fund campaigns against our masjid, against myself, against all of us. 17 masajid in the Dallas area have been targeted. 17! We are number 1, but other 16 as well are there, and the others are going to come. If we do not stand up and fight back, if we do not educate, if we do not show the people these dots, our fellow Texans, you're not the ones riling up. It is people in India that are riling up all of this hatred. It is Zionists in Israel that are doing this. Our fellow Texans are not even doing this. Once we understand this reality, how can we not become active? How can we remain passive and dormant? It is our responsibility affecting our rituals and our masjid. So, O Muslim, the call for action today is very simple. Every one of us, we need to do our part. First and foremost, educate yourself. Secondly, do what you can to educate others. Thirdly, we need to start doing more than just talk. Form think tanks, form institutes that will respond back. And then obviously throughout all of this, have a strong connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make dua to Allah. Be firm upon our iman. This is a battle that is affecting every single one of us. And it transcends just our masjid. It involves superpowers around the world. And we are literally being dragged in. O Muslims, Allah is on our side. Let us turn to Allah. Let us educate ourselves. And let us realize, if we do not fight back with knowledge, with wisdom, with love, then the reality is, who is going to win if we do nothing? We have to do what we can, and that's why my call for action to you all is educate, be aware, fight back intellectually, and then obviously most importantly, have a strong connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I will continue to give you updates about this reality. Allahumma inni da'in fa'aminu. Allahumma la tadha' fi hadami dhanban illa ghafarta, wa la hamman illa farrajta, wa la daynan illa qadayta, wa la maridan illa shafayta, wa la asiran illa yassarta. Allahumma ighfir lana wa li ikhwanina alladhina sabaquna bil iman, wa la تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم من أرادنا أو أراد الإسلام والمسلمين بسوء فاشغله بنفسه واجعل تدميره في تدبيره يا قوي يا عزيز. عباد الله، إن الله تعالى أمركم بأمر بدأ به بنفسه وثنى بملائكة قدسه وثلث بكم أيها المؤمنون من جنه وإنسه، فقال عز من قائل عليما: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وأنعم على عبدك ورسولك محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. عباد الله، إن الله تعالى يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه يزد لكم ولذكر الله تعالى أكبر وأقم الصلاة.